This video is not for whales and dolphins. It's for you, because you are just like me. Average Luck Gamer here, and today we are post 1.1 special program, so we have some confirmation on the upcoming characters, so you know we're going to talk about the upcoming 1.1 banners for Qingyi and Jane Doe, and answer the question, should you pull? Okay, so let's start with our electric stun agent Qingyi. What would be the pros for pulling her? Well, she'll definitely be an upgrade over Ambi, and she'll be our first limited S rank stun agent. Yes, I know Khalida and Lycoon, the wolf guy, exist, but they're on the standard banner and therefore would not likely be as strong as Qingyi, who is limited. This is a trend generally, the standard S ranks will get power crept. But this isn't a direct power creeping, as there isn't an S rank electric stun agent currently. In terms of cons, she clearly is designed to be a stun agent for the Neps, and the Neps DPS agent Cake Yuan works perfectly fine with Ambi and Nicole, who are free agents. So why do we even need Qingyi? Now, in terms of building up your account for future content, yeah, sure, I get it. You might want to replace Ambi on your Doe Yuan team with Qingyi at some point, as she'll likely be better, but as for right now, I can't see her offering that much value, as swapping like for like doesn't feel great, and it's not like Ambi is doing a poor job currently. I mentioned in a prior video the thought of using both Qingyi and Ambi together to double down on the stun, but after playing with the Doe Yuan, Ambi and Nicole team, I can't see anyone adding as much value to Doe's damage as Nicole. So as great as she is as a character, I don't think it's worth pulling for her right now, and we'll explore this a little further later in the video when we discuss teams. And lastly here, who is Qingyi running with? It's Billy and Corin, both A-rank physical DPS agents and bizarre choices. It really feels like Player don't want you to pull on this banner. Moving on to upcoming physical anomaly agent Jane Doe. Pros, well, I mean, goddamn. But also, we already have one other physical anomaly agent in the game, and that is Piper. And currently you can build a team around Piper and have her absolutely crush. So could Jane Doe be worth pulling if she's an upgrade over Piper? Well, she's a Neps agent, so she's going to have that synergy with the other Neps agents, but I don't think she'll be a natural fit into Doe Yuan's team, as currently that works by basically just buffing the living heck out of Doe's damage, and I can't see Jane adding too much value there. Now, there are rumors and speculation that Jane may enable some additional disorder buffs, as she herself is rumored to buff her crit with her scaling anomaly proficiency, therefore enabling more assaults and therefore more disorders. And as we will have a few anomaly agents in the game following Jane's addition, we could make some pretty cool disorder teams, potentially incorporating Grace and Jane and maybe a stun agent. Now, in terms of a big con, we do already have Piper, and Piper is pretty great, but I don't think Hoya would be releasing either of Qingyi or Jane Doe if they weren't substantial upgrades over Ambi and Piper respectively. And lastly then, who is she running with? Seth and Ambi, which is interesting. So new A-rank Seth, we'll talk more about him later, and Mindscapes for an electric stun agent mean that Jane's banner is actually looking better in terms of A-ranks. Now let's talk teams. So I think we're still early enough in the game for my account to be a decent representation of the average player. Now, if you skipped Ellen and pulled Doe Yuan, you'd be in close to the exact same position as me. And if you got Ellen and then potentially had to skip Doe Yuan, you kind of just have a different DPS and are in pretty much a similar boat at this point. So then you have your main team like Doe Yuan or Ellen and their supports. In terms of what you need as we go deeper into the game, like almost every gacha, we're finding ourselves needing two well-built teams to push into that endgame content, which is the problem I'm having now, is I only have one decently built team. Qingyi as a stun agent and my account with no other stun agents makes Qingyi actually look pretty appealing, as I can add Qingyi into my Doe Yuan team, making that team better, and free up Ambi to help out on the second team as the stun agent there. But swapping an electric stun agent for an electric stun agent still feels bad, man. And if I got either Khalida or Lycoon, the wolf guy, I wouldn't even be considering it. Before we move on to Jane Doe's teams, I just want to mention that liking and subscribing are the best ways to show small creators like me your support. Thank you so much for 2,600 subscribers. You guys are the absolute best. Back to the topic at hand though, and Jane teams. Now, she may be able to fit into your existing teams, but you're more likely to need to build around her. Now, if you have a built up Grace, maybe adding a stun or support agent like Rina or Qingyi for the core passive of both to be enabled could actually be massive, and the stun makes it easier to hit disorders. The more I think about the two S-rank anomaly agents, Grace and Jane together, the better it feels. And in order for them to function at their best, I think they want a stun agent or maybe support agent in there, and the only one that's going to enable both of their core passives is Qingyi. So frustratingly, as a low spender, this is what I see as Jane's best team, which makes me feel like if you're a free-to-play or low-spend player, patch 1.1 might just be a skip. I say skip, but goddamn. I would also say though that Jane probably has more future account value than Qingyi, just because we don't really know how Anomaly is going to play out, and when other Anomaly agents, maybe Miyabi, are added, if the speculation about Jane enabling Anomaly buffs is true, Jane will basically be a requirement in any Disorder team. I'll leave my Miyabi thoughts video where we talk about her potential to be an Anomaly agent linked at the end of this one. That said, both of the character designs and playstyle for Qingyi and Jane Doe look awesome, and if you're waifu over meta, then go for it. As we talked about in the team section of the video, either of these characters is going to find a slot somewhere no matter what your account looks like right now. As for me, my heart says Qingyi, my head says Skips, and other parts of me are saying Jane Doe. So what's the rub? I think we need to see the deets and understand if Jane has the crit buff thing or not, and then we go from there. I'd also mentioned that Ambi is going to be on Jane's banner, so if you did skip Qingyi and were planning to pull for Jane, you could max out the Mindscapes or at least get a good chunk for Ambi in the process, leaving you with a pretty great electric stun agent, even though you skipped Qingyi. Additionally, as Jane's banner is on the second half of 1.1, we'll get the 1.2 special program confirming the characters in 1.2 before we have to decide if we're pulling for Jane. So you could very well wait till then to make your decision, and I think that's what I should do too. We should also mention Seth for all the husbando enjoyers, and honestly his playstyle looks pretty cool. He's an electric defense agent, and I think with him being a defense agent and an A rank, I'm not expecting him to shake up anything dramatically. I think just having a defense agent that doesn't move like a bear carrying a girder is going to be interesting, as that's why most people aren't enjoying playing Ban. But also as a defense agent, in terms of managing expectations, he might make things easier if you have boomer-like reflexes like I do, but he's a defense agent in a game that's about killing things quickly. For that reason, I don't think he'll ever be optimal, but he might make clearing tough content easier. In terms of rumors, his kit is heavily based around shielding, and again, as much as I think that might be useful for some, I don't think it's ever going to be a meta pick. In terms of Wenjins, if you've watched my whale culture video, you know how I feel about them, but long story short, as a free-to-play or low-spend player, you shouldn't consider the character's weapon unless you've hard saved and understand it. You're basically giving up the potential to get another character. I'll leave that video at the end too if you want the full breakdown. The last thing that I haven't mentioned yet is the new Bangbu, Officer Chu. I was never going to get the name right. So what does he do? Now, when you have 2 or more NEPS agents, he will follow up and do additional damage. From what we can see though, he looks like a non-elemental Bangbu, which is a shame as I feel like the elemental ones are more useful, but potentially his damage could scale really well as he levels. So it might be worth considering him if you have Qingyi and Juyuan on the same team, for example, but we really need to see how he scales. Before we wrap up, can we also just appreciate the 1.1 live stream? It was absolutely epic that they squeezed everything into 15 minutes, including all the new characters, some gameplay, and some new story stuff, a bunch of events. We had some in-character moments, for example, shouting at Fairy, and the cosplay was so good. If they sold those Belle hoodies, she'd get it. I mean, I would get the hoodie. You know what I meant. I've mentioned some speculation in this video, and just a gentle reminder that when I mention something that's being a rumor or speculation, it is subject to change. Just think that it's important to mention again. So what do you think? Who are you going to be getting? Or are you skipping and saving for a later agent, maybe someone in 1.2 or Miyabi if she comes in 1.3? Let me know in the comments below. I think this is a really tough one as an average luck gamer who plans their pulls to maximize the value gained. I think the right play is probably to skip. I don't know if I can ignore Jane's personality. Plus, as a small content creator, if I skip Jane and she does become really important meta unit, I'd be kicking myself. Anyway, the Saving for Miyabi video and the Whale Culture video should pop up now if you're interested. And lastly then, always remember to pull responsibly and like and subscribe for better than average luck on your next pulls. Bye bye bye.